it is difficult. It's hard to explain to, a 5 and a 6, nearly 7-year-old what's going on.
Okay, brace yourself, because the ever-poised and perfectly polished Princess of Wales, Kate Middleton, has finally opened up about something we never expected: her parents' marriage. And trust me, it's not the fairy tale we were led to believe. We all thought the Middletons were this picture-perfect middle-class family, wholesome, hard-working, basically the British version of suburban perfection. But oh honey, that flawless exterior, just a really well-kept facade. Turns out, behind those carefully arranged smiles and quiet dinner parties, there was tension, a cold kind of silence. People who really knew the Middletons say Carol and Michael's marriage was, well, a little too calm. Not much fighting, sure, but also not much love, seriously. Even in private, their affection was non-existent. Carol was always the one in control, running the house, managing the kids, making business moves. Michael, quiet, reserved, almost like a ghost hovering in the background. Not really in the marriage, just around it. And Catherine, she noticed. Of course she noticed. People say her ability to remain so composed in public, that cool, collected, never let them see you sweat vibe, didn't come from royal training. It was homegrown, learned in a house where emotions were tucked away like fine china, visible but never touched. Now, let's talk about Party Pieces, Carol's passion project. Born in 1987 at her kitchen table, this wasn't just a fun little side hustle selling party supplies. No, this was Carol's empire, her escape from her past as a flight attendant, her ladder to a better life. She poured everything into it: time, energy, identity. Meanwhile, Michael, still in the background, helping, yes, but never leading, never stepping up, just there. But for all its early success, Party Pieces wasn't bulletproof. Trends shifted, competition grew, and the business started to spiral. Carol, instead of scaling back, doubled down, pushed harder, new products, flashier marketing, bigger risks. Michael grew nervous, started speaking up, begging for caution. But Carol, she wasn't listening. She had a vision and no intention of slowing down, not even for her own husband. And then the whole thing collapsed. Quietly. No dramatic headlines, just unpaid debts, unhappy suppliers, and a dream slowly dissolving. The fall of Party Pieces didn't just hit their bank account, it hit the family. The emotional distance between Carol and Michael became impossible to ignore. Carol was still pushing, smiling for the cameras, trying to hold it all together. Michael practically vanished into the wallpaper, and Kate, she began stepping back, still polite, still dutiful, but the closeness she once had with her parents, fading. Some say she's still the good daughter, but there's now a distinct chill in the air. She started dropping little hints, nothing scandalous or emotional, just honest. Real, like she's gently trying to rewrite the overly glossy version of her childhood. Not tragic, but definitely not perfect. See that little business that was supposed to give Carol a new sense of self? Ended up consuming her. And Michael's silence? It stopped being supportive, it became absence. Behind the elegant branding and royal adjacent vibes of Party Pieces, all those pastel hues and regal undertones, was a ticking time bomb of stress and control. And when the cracks began to show, Carol clung tighter. Michael stepped back further. Eventually, he just gave up, watched from a distance as his wife dragged the business and maybe their marriage towards something unmanageable. The foundation of their family? Not as strong as everyone thought. But let's rewind for a second. Before all this drama, before the failed business and emotional divide, Carol and Michael actually had something sweet. Their love story didn't begin in glitz and glam, but in airports and uniforms. Carol was a working-class girl from Southall, smart, driven, always aiming higher. She became a flight attendant, gained poise, polish, and a wider worldview. Michael? He was the quiet type, born into the upper middle class, polite, educated, calm. He wasn't flashy, just solid, dependable, a background kind of guy. They met while working at British Airways. She was all energy and ambition. He was grounded and reserved. Together, surprisingly perfect. Their love didn't spark fireworks. It just clicked. Quietly, naturally, they balanced each other. Carol pulled Michael out of his shell. He steadied her ambition. When they married, it was low-key. Modest house, ordinary jobs. Just two people trying to build a life. And when Catherine came along in 1982, they became a family. Then Pippa in 84, James in 87, a full house full of dreams. Carol ran the home like a tight ship. Organized, efficient. Michael was the quiet anchor, always present, never loud. They didn't chase flashiness. They prioritized stability, comfort, and for a while it worked. Mornings meant school runs, evenings meant family dinners, holidays were homey, birthdays magical, thanks to Carol's knack for party flair. They worked hard to give their kids more than just material things. They wanted to give them confidence, security, direction. At events, Carol and Michael were often side by side, smiles, glances, linked arms. Their love wasn't loud, but it seemed real, reliable. And for a long time, that seemed enough. Then came party pieces. Carol's big leap. Starting from her kitchen table, she turned a catalog business into a full-blown brand. Michael supported her, quietly of course. He believed in her, let her lead. And for a while, the family thrived. The house was bustling, the kids were growing, the business was booming. The partnership that began in quiet flirtations at an airline job became the foundation of a life they built together. They didn't need flashy vacations or lavish parties. Their love was in the little things, the teamwork, the effort, the unspoken bond. But as the kids grew up, especially with Kate stepping into the royal spotlight, the pressure started to mount. And slowly, the cracks formed. The dynamics shifted. Carol, always the planner, became more intense. Michael, always the peacemaker, grew even more silent. Their emotional connection thinned. Yet they smiled for the cameras, kept up appearances, because that's what they do. And then the fall. Party pieces faltered, then flopped. Creditors came knocking. Suppliers claimed unpaid bills. Some over 300,000 pounds sterling, 0 pence. Respectable, idealized image shattered. And that's when the emotional rift between Carol and Michael became undeniable. They weren't fighting, they weren't yelling, but they were no longer together in the way that matters. Carol stayed in charge of the business, of the image, of the damage control. Michael, he all but disappeared. And Kate? Stuck in the middle. Again. So where were we? Yes. Everything's falling apart and poor Kate is watching the quiet unraveling of the people who raised her, while Carol was still putting on that polished smile at events, trying to keep things business as usual. Insiders started whispering, Michael is emotionally checked out. He was still showing up, physically, but emotionally, that man had left the chat. And the pressure Kate always felt to hold them together, it's no longer sustainable. She's had to choose, keep trying to save a sinking ship or protect her own peace. And she's choosing herself, finally. These days, Kate is still there for her family, but insiders say she's no longer trying to fix them. The daily phone calls, fewer. The constant check-ins, dialed back. But out of spite, out of self-preservation, she's shifting focus to her royal duties, her children, her health, her future. Because being the peacemaker takes a toll, especially when no one's meeting you halfway. Even the palace, yes, the palace, has started rethinking the Middleton image. Once praised as the model royal in-laws, they're now under a much more cautious lens. Michael's long absences no longer brushed aside. Carol's firm grip on Kate's public image, raising eyebrows, her behind-the-scenes influence on Kate's early royal life, once admired, now seems a bit controlling. And while Kate still loves her family, she's had to put up some boundaries because she can't carry everyone, not anymore. And honestly, good for her. Because what once looked like the ideal upbringing, the loving parents, the happy home, the successful family business, now looks like a tightly wound performance. Kate's realizing something so many of us do. You can love your family and still need space from them, especially when the expectations become unbearable. And right now, Kate's finally giving herself that space. Now the world's darling, Catherine, Princess of Wales, is living what many would call a dream. Married to a future king, mother to the heirs of the British throne, adored by millions. But behind the palatial doors, the picture is more complicated. Kate isn't just juggling royal engagements and parenting under a microscope. She's also been quietly carrying her family her entire life. She's been the glue, the buffer, the fixer. But now, she's finally starting to let go, and it shows. People have noticed the subtle shift. She still smiles, still waves, still stuns in her public appearances, but she's not clinging to the Middleton brand like she once did. There's a quiet distancing happening, and no, it's not coldness, it's a self-preservation. Even palace insiders are starting to read between the lines. You see, the royals, notoriously private private and calculated, had always loved the Middletons. They brought this comforting, respectable energy to the table. No scandals, no headlines, just hardworking, middle-class charm. Carol and Michael were seen as a godsend. Finally, in-laws that wouldn't stir drama. But that illusion is slowly fading because what looked like a strong, united, drama-free family is actually a story full of emotional distance, rigid expectations, and carefully concealed fractures. Michael's vanishing act? Not a one-off. He's rarely seen, and when he is, his energy feels detached. Friends say he's either retreating because of emotional burnout or even health concerns, but either way, he's not the grounded presence he once was. Carol, on the other hand, is still around, just toned down. That commanding energy she once exuded, a little dimmed. She's no longer managing a business or pushing a brand. Her influence has shifted. Now she's more focused on her grandkids than running the show. But the dynamic between her and Michael, it's flat. They're still together technically, but emotionally, not even close. And Kate sees it all. People close to her say this realization has quietly crushed her. Because no matter how old you are, no matter how perfect you look in a tiara, seeing your parents drift apart, it hurts. And in Kate's case, it hits deeper because she tried for years to hold that marriage together. She absorbed the tension. She made excuses for the distance. She kept the smiles going when no one else would, and now she's finally accepting what's always been there, that she can't fix it, that the emotional silence in her family isn't hers to solve anymore. Even the palace, yes, even Buckingham Palace has taken note. Quiet discussions have reportedly started behind the scenes. Should Kate still be seen in public with her parents as much? Not to shun them, but to protect her image. To preserve the image of the monarchy, because with all the recent scrutiny over royal in-laws, they don't want another media storm brewing. That's how bad it's gotten. Kate, ever loyal, has tried to protect her family for as long as she could. But there's only so much one woman, even a future queen, can take. And the truth is, she's been silently heartbroken. Not just about her parents' growing distance, but about the fact that she can't carry the illusion anymore. Can't pretend everything's perfect, because it's not. It never was. The Middletons were always admired for being normal, grounded, respectable, put together. But the real story is so much more human. Michael was never very present emotionally. Carol was controlling, sometimes obsessively so. Their business success came at the cost of emotional connection. And Kate, she bore the burden of perfection. She didn't grow up in chaos, no scandals or screaming matches, but she did grow up in silence, in a house where appearances mattered more than vulnerability, where love was there, but it was measured, controlled, disciplined. And now she's realizing just how much of herself she buried to keep that world intact. People close to Kate say she's been quietly sad for some time. Not falling apart, because she won't, but carrying a weight that very few understand. She's still doing her duties, still showing up for her children, her husband, her country, but behind the calm exterior, there's a woman facing the truth about her past and making peace with it. No, she's not cutting off her family. She still sees them, she still loves them, but she's slowly building boundaries. And that's a kind of strength we don't talk about enough. The public still sees a polished princess, but behind the scenes, she's doing the painful, quiet work of redefining her relationship with the people who shaped her, for better and worse. And let's be honest, that's not weakness. That's growth. Carol Middleton is no longer the orchestrator of the family brand. Michael Middleton is no longer the quiet rock. And Kate, she's no longer the child trying to fix it all. She's a woman, a mother, a royal trying to finally live life on her own terms. And that, my friends, is the real fairy tale. It's not about castles and crowns. It's about learning that sometimes the most regal thing you can do is let go. So what do you think? Did Kate do the right thing by distancing herself? Do you believe the Middletons' picture-perfect image was all just a mask? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Before you go, make sure to check out the next video on your screen. There's more royal drama you won't want to miss.